absolutely lovely to meet you, Wes. We've got the lovely Wes. Is it Wes Hauch?
Yes, sir. You got it right first try.
How are you, my friend? First of all,
I'm good, man. I've been caffeinated, and like I said, this is going to be like a day of like four of these back to back. So you're getting me like right in the first part of the day when my brain's going to be fresh, and hopefully my answers will be timely and stuff like that. So
so I kind of wanted to pick up on the fact you did mention that it was an instrumental album, previously and stuff like that. Did you find it kind of difficult to rein things in from a kind of artistic restraint kind of standpoint?
yeah, I'd say that probably the first 6 months that I started working on this, I felt like a cat that had its whiskers cut off, you know what I mean? And there's a lot that I could say about that that probably had a lot to do with the personal stuff that was going on in my life, but I always wanted this to be a fronted band, and I always wanted to have meaningful, action-packed 3.5, 4.5 minute long songs, and there was a lot of chopping. I tend to not so much anymore, but at that time I was tending to overwrite, and then once it's in there, once it like looks like a thing in arrangement, is when I would start to chop stuff down.
It must be really difficult, like you're talking about overwriting and things like that. It strikes me as kind of like almost like a painter, like how do you know when the painting is truly finished? Like how do you get that vibe?
Sometimes a song will come out in an hour. Like for instance, that song "Putrid Sunrise," that was a real fast song. "Sarcoma" is another song that came out really, really fast. Oddly, "Ulysses," which is a song that only has like 3 different parts in it, that was one that I overwrote a ton of shit for. It's possible that when I was doing this stuff, not being able to imagine Kevin over it quite yet made it more difficult, to know, okay, this part is now like worn out its welcome and we need to go on to a next thing. I mean, in terms of just like basic arrangement stuff, the goal for me, as much as I love being a guitar dominant band, and I think that that's an important part of the Sonics, it's just always going to be whatever makes Kevin look and sound the coolest. You know what I mean? That's my focus.
That's a very interesting way to look at it, especially for someone who is as accomplished as you as a guitar player. Like,
what would you say now? You've been active in this for a while. Would you say, and if I had to think about it now, the splintering off that the subgenre kind of frenzy that's happened for metal music, would you say really kind of kicked off around like the late 2000s, like 2008, 2009 and stuff like that? And one of the probably positive things about that is it's made a nice bed of rice for like people who want to play instrumental music, like predominantly instrumental music, and become headlining acts like Animals or Pliny or any of those guys. And that's a great thing for sure. Me personally, because it is something that people have asked me about a long time. When am I going to make like a solo guitar record? And I guess whenever I can find a way to make that cool for myself, like the answer is for that. So I like lead guitar a lot. I mean, obviously, I enjoy it most as an ornament on a song. I like fronted bands. Who knows? Maybe 5 years from now, I will have done this band thing for a while, and I will have put out another 2 records, and I'll feel like, man, I'd like to make an instrumental guitar record. I doubt it. I doubt that I'm going to have that itch, but who knows? It might happen.
obviously, you've taught a lot of students guitar and everything like that, but what would you say is kind of the most valuable thing that you've learned over the years from, guitar playing?
As it applies to guitar, I would say the thing that I've learned the most in the last 3 years is working on learning some new piece of music. If you're, working on some larger concept harmonically, or trying to get a certain technique thing down and not just running it over the same bullshit that you already know how to play. If you're constantly just like reloading the barrels with new stuff, I find that it's much easier for me to stay inspired that way. Don't get into shape with your old shit. Like,
Right, okay.
work on something entirely new. A piece of advice that you can take, if for the guitar players that are listening, take it for what it is. Take it from an old, 38-year-old Hesher who's sitting here and, around some guitars right now. I don't claim to be, have all the answers, but I definitely have started to look at myself more as an educator in like the last 6-7 years that I've been teaching a lot over Skype. This is a weird thing that I can't totally explain. I could have zero money in my bank account.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I could be in like a shitty spot. I could have no money in my bank account, but if I'm playing great, I'm playing like I'm sounding like I want to sound, and I'm playing like I want to play, I am in the best mood. Alternatively, if I have a bunch of money in my bank account and I just have had too many things go on in the week or for weeks at a time that have prevented me from being able to play guitar a lot or stay on the up with my shit on guitar, I'll get super down and super depressed. This guitar back here, it's full of problems. It's full of, maybe problems is a bad word, puzzles, tricks or whatever. And like, you've only got a certain amount of time to figure out which problems are the most important for you to solve. So, and a little bit every day too. I mean, that's another thing is a lot of people get ahead of themselves and they think that they need to be a great improviser now. And that's just never how it works, I know that was a long-winded answer, bro. I tend to do that, but sorry.
because I was going to say one of the things, that I really notice about your playing, like, not to kind of like big your head up or anything like that, but Emancipate, that second solo in the Faceless, is one of my all-time favorite solos, and I think it's because of the phrasing and the note choice that you have. So is that kind of, I guess that kind of feeds into what you were talking about with how do you choose those notes, because it's always so different.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about in like sort of the grand scheme of understanding harmony and like the macro vision. This is the Achilles heel of most metal guitar players, myself included, up until about like 12, 13 years ago. There's this type of heritage and etiquette in metal, right, that has to do with palm muting and picking and pick angle and tone and things like that. And once you get into that stuff, and granted, this has changed nowadays because you have I guess you have guys like me, Dave Davidson, Tosin. There's a lot of guys who are playing, like heating form when it comes to harmony, and that just didn't exist a lot in the metal records that got most people into metal in like the 80s and 90s, so at one point or another, you get 10 years in as a guitar player playing metal and you don't really understand harmony beyond the third, or, really like you don't understand that there are chords in a key, and you don't really understand that all of these, sort of crummy 3-note per string scale diagrams that you get, that like all that stuff it's exciting, but like you start running out of sounds and you don't really understand what you're doing. And if you can start understanding what's in the key, right? You know what I mean? Like what is going on in the key? Like, let's take a look at all the chords in the key. And generally speaking, if it's diatonic, right? If like we're just talking about chords in the major scale, you can do a lot of decorating to like just a normal seventh chord. Certainly a triad, you can sort of imply a lot of different stuff over that. And if we're talking about like a key, you know, like a B major seven chord is, you know, basically E flat minor over B. And if I want to make that a sharp flat or a sharp 11, then that's the E flat minor 9 chord over B. And then, so if you're not looking and trying to orient yourself with the key based on the low string anymore, if you can just start seeing E flat minor 9 everywhere, then you're always going to fucking sound hip. You're always going to sound what you're doing, like, you know what you're doing. And I would say the scale is an important thing to understand, but like, if you know formulas, then you can boogie. You know what I mean? If you know formulas, then you're not like tied up in this fucking scale shit, which is like, if you wanted to talk about it and relate it to atomic sort of substructures or whatever, you could look at like triads, like the mitochondria in a cell, you know what I mean? And then it's a whole bunch of them that stack up, and then you like, it's other triads stacked up on top of other triads that make these larger chord voicings and larger chord qualities. My best advice to anyone who's listening and like is wanting to search for new and hip sounds and or understand them is, if you can understand everything from the triad, you are always going to sound like a smooth criminal. I mean, and look at like Wayne Krantz or Jimmy Herring, you know what I mean? Like those dudes always sound just deadly.
I wanted to kind of say, obviously, you've played with lots of different bands all over the world and everything, but what is it that you're trying to kind of bring to the table with ALLUVIAL?
It's a good question. I don't have an immediate answer for it. My answer to this sort of varies from day to day, but if I had to say anything, we're like 30% death metal kind of. We're like 30% sort of traditional metal, where, you know, I guess bands that aren't death metal, Metallica, all that other stuff, you know what I mean? 15 or 20% black and rolls. So what am I up to now? 80%? Yeah. And then like another, and then there's like a 20% like rock sensibility thing to it, you know what I mean? Like, I guess I like any type of music that makes you go like laugh and go like, wow, like I felt that way before. You know, that's the key thing for me. And there's a ton of different stuff that does that to me. I want our music to be inclusive, you know. I want us to be crushing for the most part, and I want our shows to be fun. The thing that I've always loved about some of my favorite bands is that they might have had this just deadly, terrifying music, and they might have been like the most deadly performers, but there was this element of fun, and that's worn off a lot. Like the only band that really comes to mind for me like that is like heavy, and they're all sick players, and the message is heavy, but there's this general like energy of fun with it, is Black Dahlia Murder. Like those dudes, like they're everything. It's scary, it's terrifying, you know what I mean? Like it's heavy, but like also it's fun. I want that for us, and that's like my mission, you know. Trevor has he has like a really good, he has an ability to make things inclusive. Black Dahlia Murder! I want to see some fucking action out here! Show me what you got! The Lord is my shepherd.
He's a cool dude, man. I've chatted with him like many times, but he's, yeah, like you say, it's just a very like warm aura, which I think is really prevalent, especially in death metal. Like everyone's talking about killing each other, but they're all having a good time at the same time.
Yeah. That is a weird thing, right? There's, as much as at one time in my life I probably would have had a difficult time admitting this. Um, Music of this persuasion is sort of designed for people who had a certain life experience. You know what I mean? Usually don't seek out this art unless you've had certain experiences in your life that lead you, into this type of art. It's a type of art that sort of talks about heavier subject matter, and I guess the music is supposed to match it. And I mean, I guess that there's crossover stuff with that in pop music. I mean, like Billie Eilish's stuff is all real dark, and man, she has some fucking awesome music videos. Like Jesus Christ, some of her videos are like so much better than anything like I've seen in such a long time from any metal band. Granted, I mean, of course, like we're talking about way bigger budgets, but
Yeah,
fuck, she's got some music videos that are just
they're insane, aren't they? Like the
yeah.
Bury a Friend music video is terrifying.
I think she's probably like what 18, 19 now.
Yeah.
But like the first whole part of her career being, insanely meteoric, you know what I mean? And being a kid and sort of developing into that, and like wearing the type of baggy clothes and stuff and being made fun of for that. But she did, like, she got entirely where she is on like kind of being an artist. And now I see like a lot of people shitting on her because she's kind of taken advantage of the fact that she is an adult now, and like maybe some of her promo photos are more risque. I hate to say that because I mean, who gives a fuck? I mean, like there's like, but like she's not wearing baggy clothes anymore and stuff, and I'm just like, hey, like who like you guys hated on this girl when she was wearing baggy clothes and she was a kid, and now you're hating on her because she's like a fucking adult and she's like leaning into the fact that she has a physique, So that's one of the things I always try to remember, especially with, if you're going to make art, right? If you're going to make art that's going to be judged in the court of a public opinion, like you're going to hopefully like get people involved in it by people sharing it in the public sphere, you are just going to run into people who are going to say something about it. Now, like how infinitesimally small the fucking like metal scene is compared to the commerce associated with an act like Billie Eilish is tough. Can you imagine like the type of blinders that an artist like that has to have on to sort of like get through a tour or even a day?
I've got to address one little elephant literally in the room, which is your Texas Chainsaw Massacre poster. Which is that your favorite out of the series?
The first one, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that it is there's something about the film quality and the grit and the fact that there's not a bunch of music in it. I like The Exorcist for the same reason. I like The Exorcist for the same reason that there isn't really a soundtrack other than that Tubular Bells song. I think about this too, like, and this has sort of helped me develop like the vision for the band, because it's tough for anyone who's trying to, like, it's like, how do I put a band together? How do I get like a vision together? If you can think of your band like a movie, it's easier to put it together, at least for me. If you can think of your band like, all right, so they're going to turn a corner and they're going to see this scene and you're setting up the story like this, it's a better way to sort of like lay things out.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to chat with you, Wes.
Thank you for having me on, and like let's do more of this shit. And of course, definitely, you know, whenever we're near you, hit me up and come to the gig.
All right, dude. Take care.